Hello there. How are you? My face looks a little crazy because I got a facial today and I didn't want to put makeup on after I just put on a bright lip. I want to let my skin breathe. Facebook and YouTube, I'm looking really crazy because I'm really zoomed in. But I want to talk about something that might help you on your journey with alcohol. So let's get into it. All right. Are we going? Oh, let's start recording because we're recording a podcast here for She Just Glows, the podcast. I record these here and then I edit them later and release them as a podcast. If you have ever thought about, hey, I'd love to know what life would be like with less alcohol or with no alcohol, but you've stopped yourself short every time because you've decided that if you can't go all the way, if you can't stop drinking forever and ever, then that would be a fail. And so you'd rather not even start. If that's you, I am so glad you're here. This episode is just for you. If you are someone who hasn't had a sip of alcohol and have been completely sober for months and years, and you kind of think you're better than everybody else, and I know there are those of you out there, this episode is for you too. I really want to break down some of these labels that we've gotten so comfortable with that aren't helpful at all. And I'm going to share a personal story from yesterday that made me get back on after being out all summer. Oh my gosh, my kids are finally back in school. You guys, they're in aftercare now for the first time ever. I don't pick them up till 6 p.m. 6 p.m., like moment of silence. It's been 13 years of 1:45. Like, I don't know what to do with myself. So I thought I'd hop on here and talk to you guys. So if you haven't been here before, I'm so glad you're here. And if you have been here before, welcome back. I'm Janie. I'm a joy coach for moms. I talk a lot about my journey going alcohol free, and I help women rediscover their love of their own life. Sometimes that involves changing their relationship with alcohol, and sometimes that involves tons of other things. So in working with me, we don't have to talk about alcohol, but that's a lot of what I know you guys like listening to here on the podcast. So I thought I would dive into this issue today. Like I said, my kids are back at school. I have so much more free time than I used to. And so I've just reopened my fall calendar. If you're interested in becoming a client, or if you are a current client or a former client and ready to jump back into uncovering joy in your life again, finding your spark, send me a DM. I would love to connect and get you on the schedule with me. Okay. So I have a real problem with labels when it comes to drinking. And you might have heard me talk in previous podcast episodes about how I don't like the word sober and I don't like the word alcoholic. I like to say alcohol free, and that's just my thing. This, by the way, I'm going to start at the beginning and say I'm not an expert on anything here. I'm not even a certified life coach. I make that very clear to every client I work with. I'm just a mom, just like you, who's in her 40s, who has 4 kids, who's trying to do it all and figuring out little things along the way that have helped. And I'm living out my passion right now in coaching you guys in doing the same. So this is just my 2 cents, okay? It's not, I'm going to back this up with research and science, but this is just kind of my opinion on this stuff. And if you disagree, that's okay. That's okay. What I want to get at in this episode is that there is space for everyone who wants to rethink their relationship with alcohol. There's not just space for people who stop drinking for their entire life. There's not just space for people who stop drinking, but then drink other things like THC cans or Kratom tea, which gives you a buzz. By the way, those 2 things I do drink now after being alcohol free for, I think, about 2.5 years straight. There's people who drink on vacation, but not in real life, which I also do now. There's space for everyone here. Okay. And the more that we label and put down other people on the journey, the more we discourage people from trying to uncover this beautiful life without alcohol or with less alcohol, like we've discovered. So where should I start? I don't have a ton of notes today. I'm just going off the top of my head. All right, I'm going to start with why I'm doing this today. I found a comment yesterday on my socials. I was off socials most of the summer, and I kind of got back in yesterday and was like looking at different comments and responding to DMs. I'm sorry if I kept you on red for a long time. I couldn't get into my Facebook messages for a while. And I saw this comment on one of my posts from like 7 weeks ago. So I wanted to respond in the moment, but I thought the issue was so much bigger that I would just bring it here and respond in full because it deserves an actual podcast episode. I wanted to find the comment before I came on here, and I looked just a few minutes ago, and I could not find it. So I'm just going to paraphrase what the person said. When I explain where I'm at in my alcohol-free journey now, I say something like, I'm alcohol-free, but we dabble on vacation. What I mean by that is my husband and I still don't drink at home. We don't drink in day-to-day life, but we've started occasionally drinking when we're on vacation again. And it's whatever. It's not great. It's not horrible. It just is. What I love about it is it's an accessory to the day. It's not the focus of the day like it used to be. And I have podcast episodes on what made me decide to do this and kind of where that journey went if you're really that curious. But spoiler alert, I just wanted to, so I did. Okay, because that's what I can do, and that's what you can do. I'm almost 43 years old. I can do whatever I feel like, and so can you. And so this person had written on something that I had shared, this long comment that basically said, and again, I'm going to paraphrase, I really don't think you should call yourself an alcohol-free coach because, as you said, you dabble. I've been alcohol-free for X amount of time, which good for her. That's amazing. I will never take that away from you. I think it's fantastic. And she said something like, we live in a really dangerous mommy wine culture. You shouldn't use the term alcohol-free when you describe yourself. And what I noticed in this comment was it didn't really say anything about anything, did it? Because I'm here helping you go alcohol-free if you want to. That's why I call myself an alcohol-free coach. I'm helping you find joy in your life. That's why I call myself a joy coach. I've been alcohol-free for a time, and then I changed my mind and decided to drink occasionally. And it's just reminded me why being alcohol-free completely is the best road for me. But I had to be free to discover that on my own. So what I want to bring attention to today is just this idea that reevaluating your relationship with alcohol is not a zero-sum game. It's not like you can either never drink again or stay where you are now. You can do many other things in that gray area. You can decide, I'm going to stop drinking for a month, and you will learn a lot in that month. You will grow a lot in that month. You will be curious about why you drink. Hopefully, you'll dig a little deeper and figure out the real reasons that you're drinking, because it's not just muscle memory at that point. There's a reason. And that's what I work with my clients on every single day. In fact, I just had a call with a client last week, and she's a new client. We're going through a month without alcohol together. And I said something like, your journey is going to have two parallel paths. One of the paths is we can talk in these calls about how not to drink this weekend and what you can do. And I have a lot of different tools in my toolbox to help you with that. But the parallel path, the more important path, the more rewarding path is, why are you drinking in the first place? What are you filling when you fill that cup? What need is there that can be met in a different way? And that is such beautiful work. I get chills when I think about it. So I don't hear a lot of people saying this in the alcohol-free space, and I wanted to say it today. Alcohol-free is a journey. It doesn't have to be quit drinking forever. Very few people do that cold turkey. I know that Alcoholics Anonymous is very much a proponent of you stop forever. You talk about that you're an alcoholic and that it's a problem. And that's worked for millions and millions of people, which is fantastic. But it doesn't work for everyone. And it wasn't going to work for me because I don't want to call myself an alcoholic. So being alcohol-free doesn't have to be all or nothing. You don't get to choose between two different labels, sober or alcoholic. You can live in the in-between. That's what life is, right? It's never as cut and dry as it seems it will be. So in this episode, I'm going to talk about why you should look at small gains in your alcohol-free journey. Again, it's not a zero-sum game. It's not a pass or fail. It's you're growing and evolving and staying curious about why you drink. It's a journey. And there's a science behind that I will get into. I'll also go into the timeline goals that I would suggest for you if you were my client and you wanted to stop drinking and you said, what should I do? When can I drink these other things? Tell me where to go from here. And we'll get into that brain science that applauds small gains. Even if you don't completely quit, you're still seeing small gains, okay? Okay. I know you've heard of the book Atomic Habits, right? It's all about this. Life isn't just about hitting your end goal. Life is about small incremental changes and improvements day over day. So you look for tiny margins of improvement in what you do, okay? So if you get better by 1% every day for a year, let's use this with drinking. If you decreased your drinking by 1% every day over a year, by the end of the year, you would be drinking 37 times less. You would be 37 times better by the end of the year. So why can't we just applaud these small incremental changes? Why? Let's do that. What happens when we make a new path, a new neural pathway in our brain, when we choose the other option that isn't the one that's so ingrained in our muscle memory? So an example of that would be, okay, every Sunday afternoon, I have a glass of white wine. I sit on my back deck, I sit in the sun, and I watch my kids play, and I dread Monday. So this is my treat to myself, and it usually goes into like 3-4 glasses, maybe a bottle if it's a long afternoon, and that's what I do on Sundays. So that is a simple habit, and habits can change. People change habits every single day. So where was I going with that? That's why I need my notes. I don't have many notes. So if that day, instead of choosing the white wine, you said, you know what, I'm going to do a limoncello LaCroix. I'm going to pour it into a wine glass. I'm going to put ice cubes in it. It's going to taste delicious. It's not going to slow my mind down. And I'm going to change that muscle memory habit of white wine on the patio on Sunday afternoon. And today I'm going to make it a LaCroix that's alcohol-free, as LaCroix are, okay? That's creating a tiny new neural pathway. The neural pathway, picture it as your drinking neural pathway, your muscle memory, the Sunday white wine on the deck neural pathway is a freeway. It's a 6-lane highway. It's well paved. It's very efficient. It's been ridden many times, and there have been a lot of trips taken on this neural pathway of white wine on the porch on a Sunday afternoon. Today, you created a new neural pathway. You dug out a little path off the side of that highway, and it's off in the woods, and it's a little walking path, and there are stones, and it's uneven, and you need boots to walk across it, and it's just for one person right now. It's just a walking path. That's the new neural pathway that you've carved out today with that choice. Tomorrow or next Sunday, instead of your white wine on the deck, if you decide, I'm going to do that limoncello again, I'm going to change the flavor. I'm going to do an alcohol-free beer instead, something different. That rocky walking path, neural pathway through the woods gets a little wider. Now it's still a little rocky, but you could fit a car down it. It'd be bumpy. It's a dirt road. There's some rocks in it still, but it's wider. Then the following Sunday, you make that choice again. You decide, I'm going to have a Topo Chico, which, by the way, that is the best carbonated water I've ever tasted. A lot of people in the alcohol-free community drink this. Of course, since I've stopped drinking, they now make them with alcohol in them. But the alcohol-free Topo Chico, hands down the best sparkling water. It's from Mexico. Slice a delicious, juicy lemon wedge in that. Squeeze it in. Perfection. So the day that you decided to do your Topo Chico with lemon on the deck instead of the white wine on your Sunday afternoon, well, now you've got a paved road. You can take a car down that road. Every time you make that new choice, it becomes easier to make that choice again and again and again. So let's applaud that. Let's encourage that. When my clients come to me and they want to cut back on their drinking, we make a big point in those early days to applaud every small win, even if you still had a drink on Saturday night, let's say. But on Sunday, you made that choice. You changed that neural pathway. You made that road wider. And that is worth celebrating. Do you see where I'm going with this? The labels aren't helpful, but there is some truth to the benefit of being completely sober. Okay, so let's get into that. I will tell you, and again, I don't know anything about anything. I'm just a girl like you trying to figure this life thing out. But in my experience, not drinking and having nothing else that gives you a buzz is the best way. It is, hands down. I have earlier podcast episodes about my alcohol-free journey, but I'll tell you quickly, I started really drinking a lot more when I had 3 young boys. They were very rambunctious, and it was just a stressful time. My husband worked a lot. I was bored. I was wanting something to take the edge off at the end of the day or while the kids played in the backyard at dinner time. And so I started drinking vodka. I would drink vodka with like a club soda in a big mason glass with ice and a straw. And as time went on, I just kept drinking more because I wanted to, and it took the edge off, and I wanted that moment for me. And over several years of not being sure that this was a good thing for me, of really just wrestling with it and trying to stop and not, and trying and not, I finally, in 2021, I had a really bad hangover. We were basically camping at our hunting property, and I just had the worst hangover, and I said, I'm done with this life. I'm done. I am sick of feeling like crap every few mornings or most mornings in the week because I'm over drinking the night before because I need that much to feel it at this point. This is not the life I want. I don't know how I'm going to do this, but I am not going to drink anymore. Just something about that morning. I think I was at rock bottom. I took that handle of Tito's that I had drained the night before. You know, when you wake up the next morning, you're like, I drank all that? No way. Yeah. I looked at the half full handle of Tito's that I had very much drained the night before, and I flushed it down the sink of our RV, and I said, I don't usually do things like that because it's wasting. You know, it's like, how much is alcohol these days? Like, it's wasting. I actually just read somewhere that in their lifetime, people who drink heavily spend over $400,000 on alcohol, right? And you can believe it. I mean, everything's more expensive now. Flushed it down the sink, and I said, I'm done with this life. And on that car ride home, I emailed an alcohol-free coach who I had a call with and decided, no, I don't know if I want to work with her. I don't know if I want to stop drinking forever. And I just emailed her again and said, I'd like to sign up. I'm done with this. And then I went for a couple years, like two and a half years, I think. And my husband and I were flying to Greece last summer in first class. And you know they offer you those mimosas and champagne in first class when you board. And he said yes. And he had been my wingman. He had stopped drinking in 2020, a year before my nasty hangover morning and deciding to take a break. And he said, sure. And I said, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm celebrating. And so starting about a year ago, we started making the exception of when we travel, we'll drink occasionally. And we also, not that you need the whole rundown on what I do, but about 2 years ago, we discovered something called Kratom tea, which I don't talk a ton about for many reasons. The main one is everyone's alcohol-free journey is personal and theirs, and what works for me may not work for you. But what works for us now, because I know you're curious because you're here, is having Kratom tea most nights, and it just gives you a little mood shift. You're never drunk. You're never that out of it. It's like a glass of wine is how I describe the feeling, but it tastes disgusting. There is a lot of conflicting information out there about Kratom tea. There's also very little uniformity in how it's distributed. There's not much oversight over it. So you can get bad stuff too. And so I wouldn't just order it from anywhere. So I think I was actually sharing about yesterday, my husband and I had a lunch date and I made a reel that we actually went to this alcohol-free beverage shop near where we live. And we bought some Kratom canned drinks and then some THC drinks, which are very interesting, but we're enjoying the THC drinks these days. When I first stopped drinking, I remember saying to my alcohol-free coach, you're not really sober if you're still drinking THC drinks. I was kind of like judgy about it, right? And I'm realizing now as my journey unfolds that my journey and yours, it unfolds exactly how it's supposed to. And I'm not making excuses for anything. Like, I never said I would stop drinking forever. And you don't have to either. You can just say, I want to take a break. I want to see what life is like without alcohol. I want to challenge myself. I want to hit these fitness goals. I want to clear my head. Like, you can take a break, and then if you choose to go back to it, you can. You're a grown woman. I'm not necessarily advocating that, but you own your journey. No one else does. And that's why I called this episode Sober Shaming, because it's not from the sense of the drinkers shame people who don't drink. People don't really do that anymore, do they? It's kind of cool now to not drink, isn't it? It's more in vogue. It's more on trend than it was 3 years ago when I took a break. But what happens is people who have not drank for a long time want to tell people who, like me, who drink THC cans and Kratom now, that like, you're not truly sober. You're not this, you're not that. You don't fit in this category anymore. And I guess what I want to say today is I'm just bored of that conversation. There's room for everyone here. There's room for everyone here. There's room for you. If you haven't had a stitch of anything for years, go you. Seriously. But leave room for the rest of us to just discover and let things unfold as they will. Okay? I do want to say, if you were coming to me as a client, and I have a new client now who asked this exact question last week, and if you are saying, I want to take a break from drinking, what THC cans should I buy? What Kratom should I buy? Where do you get your Kratom? I will say this. I would highly recommend that you actually take a full break from drinking. I would recommend, and again, I don't know anything about anything. I've just been through my own experience, and I've coached many of you through this experience as well, and it's worked. I would recommend 30 to 90 days of nothing. No alcohol, no THC, no Kratom, nothing. Okay? Then, at the end of that, preferably with a coach who you trust, who will hold you accountable, try things if you like. Here's the goal. Anything but alcohol. That's my goal. It may not be your goal. Your goal might be, I never want to drink again until the day I die. Never. That was never my goal. My goal was, I'm sick of feeling hungover half the time in the morning. This doesn't reflect the life I want. Let's make some changes and tweaks. I did. I moved on. Now I'm getting to take a moment for me, which is something that I talk with clients about, and we can define. You deserve a moment for you. It doesn't need to be alcohol. But I was seeking in those early vodka days when I had toddler boys doing the most psychotic things in my house. I mean, butcher knives on the, like, I watch home videos now and I'm like, this is why I drank so much. Like, I remember, right? I can't remember where I was going with that though. Where was I going with that? I forget. I would recommend that you take a nice long break from drinking under the accountability of a coach. I could certainly help you with that. And then after that time, look for new ways to enjoy a moment for me. A moment for me is, it's been a long day with the kids. I'm ready for a break. I'm ready for a moment for me. I'm ready for a drink that not everyone can drink. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with wanting that. You deserve that. There is something wrong if alcohol is taking more of your life. There is something wrong if alcohol is taking more in your life than it's giving. But I live by anything but alcohol is fine, because alcohol is what was too readily available for me. Alcohol is what was too easy for me. These other things aren't that easy to find. You don't order them at restaurants. It's not as prolific out in the world. And so you just aren't doing it as much because it's not out there as much. Like alcohol's in your face everywhere you go. I know you're a woman in the world today. You know what I'm talking about. The reason I suggest taking a strong break from anything before trying other things like THC, kratom, some people do kava, some people do CBD drinks, is because that single feeling can cycle you back into feeling really pulled to drink. Okay, that single drink feeling. So you might have heard of This Naked Mind. It's a book by Annie Grace. And if you don't already follow her, you should look her up. This Naked Mind on Instagram, Facebook. She's probably on TikTok too. She says in her book, a single drink can land you back into the painful cycle of addiction. You go directly from enjoyment to the lowest point of descent. It's the acclimation of alcohol in your body, no matter how little you drink each time, that creates pathways of addiction in your brain. The problem with alcohol is the brain doesn't simply forget it. Dopamine is the learning molecule, and your brain has learned to crave alcohol. You can abstain and cravings will disappear, but if you drink again, the brain immediately remembers. A conditioned response usually stays. And I think that when you sub something in after not having a very long break from drinking. So let me give an example. You've decided this week I don't want to drink anymore, but this weekend I have something coming up. I am going to drink a THC drink instead. All you're doing is switching what the beverage is, because the brain is still conditioned because it hasn't had a break from this dopamine rush that alcohol and these other buzzy drinks give you. Because you haven't had a strong break from that feeling, your brain is still just going to crave that new thing. That makes sense, right? So it is a slippery slope, isn't it? You got to be careful. That's why I don't talk a lot about my other drinks that I have to take the edge off, because you run the risk of people saying, oh, well, she doesn't drink. I'm just going to do this instead. This is what she's doing, which you're welcome to do. You're a grown woman. You can do whatever you want. But I think the real work comes in taking a true break, 30 to 90 days at least. What you find at the end of those time frames is you're not really wanting to drink anymore. You're just relieved that you can do what everyone else is doing again. It's not that you're looking forward to drinking after 30 days without it. Correct me if I'm wrong. So let's work on shedding these labels and recognizing that if you are interested in changing your relationship with alcohol, you can do that right now. You can decide today, I am no longer going to drink Monday through Friday or Sunday through Thursday. You can start with that. Like, you're allowed to make incremental changes. It's not all or nothing. It's not a zero-sum game. Making these small tweaks gets you closer to what you want. And that's the important thing. What do you want? When we work together and you become a private coaching client and we spend 12 weeks together at least, my first question is, why are you doing this? What do you want? You might say, I just don't want to be drunk in front of my kids. I drink when I'm home. I have my solo cup. I always drink the same thing. It's a solo drink kind of thing. And we can fix that. We can change that. You might say, I don't ever want to drink again. Alcoholism runs in my family and I'm just afraid for health reasons. We can do that. And you might just be like me and say, I'm sick of feeling hungover. I want to be able to take the edge off, but not be feeling like junk every day. That's doable too. But it's all about what's your end goal, because what this label alcohol-free world assumes when people want to label every little thing is that everyone's goal is the same, which is to never drink again. That's maybe not everyone's goal, right? So my job as your coach is helping you discover what you really want and then supporting you as you achieve that and coming up with a plan for that. Does that make sense? I've become friends with a way more experienced alcohol-free coach than myself, and I really look up to her. She's super cool, and I just love our chats. And something she said to me last time we met hasn't left me. She's seen lots and lots more people than me. She's led big groups of people wanting to not drink. And this is what she said. Everyone has something. Everyone has something. Someone may have quit drinking, but now they need a Xanax every day. Well, that's a pivot. And this is completely without judgment that I'm sharing this, but everyone has something. When you first stop drinking, at least I did, and a lot of my clients do, you want dessert and you want a lot of it. You gain a little bit of weight sometimes when you first stop drinking. Everyone has something. My amazing father-in-law has been completely sober for decades. The man has the biggest sweet tooth I've ever seen, and he's obsessed with Diet Coke. Good for you. Live your life. Like, I'm not here to judge that. But I am here to take the sting out of people needing to label you if you are simply on a journey of discovering what life could be like if you had a different relationship with alcohol. So if you're interested in learning more or having a cheerleader or more support in this process, reach out. I am here. I have a lot more availability in my schedule this fall. And I thank you guys so much for being here.